Well, hello, as promised, this is the Christmas pudding. And as you can see from the list of ingredients, it's not a standard Christmas pudding. This Christmas pudding recipe was given to me by Mother, and she got it because she went to some fancy cooking course. And this cooking course was run by a lady who had been taught by a gentleman who worked in the Queen's place, the Queen's kitchen. And apparently she doesn't like traditional Christmas pudding, so he designed this as a light Christmas pudding. Well, my family and Paul do not like Christmas pudding. It's too dark, it goes towards bitter. It's really not, it's not to a modern taste. But these ingredients are light and they produce a fruity pudding. And I just thought you'd like this one. I'm actually cooking this for my daughter. And it has a little bit of fat in it, but it's a very, very light, nice pudding. Now, I'm making 2 puddings. That was your butter, 40 grams. And I'm just literally melting it. I'm not doing anything clever. I'm making 2 puddings, one for my friend and one for my daughter. And the idea is that 2 puddings is a good thing because you can have one for yourself and you can give one as a gift. And they make very good gifts. I will be cooking this today, and it gets steamed. And it gets steamed for about 4 hours. Which leaves you half an hour on the day that you're going to eat it. You then take it out of the fridge, let it warm up in a room for an hour or so, and then you put it into a saucepan, pour in your boiling water and steam it for another half hour. That will reheat it and it will be ready. And all I'm trying to do is to melt my butter. I don't really want to cook it, I just want to melt it so it mixes easier. If I wasn't using the bowls, I've only got 2, then what I would do, I would probably melt it in the microwave. Whether that story is true or not, my mother thought it was. So this is a royal pudding of some sort. And that will work. Now, the ingredients are just basically got to be mixed together. So I've got a nice wooden spoon. You've got carrots. I don't think it really makes much difference in which order. That was half a medium carrot. And you can see it's roughly grated. It's not fine. I've chopped the apricots, 75 grams worth of apricots. I chopped them with a pair of scissors. I find that better than a knife. They seem to stick otherwise. These are sultanas, and I've got 150 grams. And they're very nice in France. They have an acid edge. They are zesty. I rather like them. And this is chopped apple. It's half an apple cored, but you can see I've made little tiny squares out of it. And I just keep mixing. And I've got some cranberries. These are optional, but I've chosen cranberries. My mother used to use glacé pineapple, but I just couldn't find that. But the cranberries are a good substitute because they are a slightly acid but sweet fruit, and they're a nice colour. I think the original recipe had cherries, glacé cherries, but they look okay, but they don't actually taste of anything, do they? The sweetness is mainly provided by a little bit of sugar and these dates. I've got 75 grams of dates. Again, I used a pair of scissors. And you can see it's nothing like making an ordinary Christmas pudding. You can see the colours are quite different. It's just not heavy and dark. It's light and it's zesty. And I'm going to add the sugar. This was 75 grams of sugar. A traditional one would have treacle, something heavy and brown. But again, I've chosen white flour because it's light and it's not got all those spices in it because, as I say, it's fruity. I'm having trouble with my dates gluing together, so I hope they'll sort of fall apart a bit more in the sugar. There. You can see how unconventional it is. Now I've got breadcrumbs, 150 grams. I've got ground almonds, 40 grams. And 40 grams of the flour, which isn't very much flour. My grandma used to make her cake with a pound cake, she used to call it. It was a pound of every dried fruit, from raisins, dates, everything that was dark. Then a pound of flour, 6 eggs. And it was okay if you like that sort of thing, but not everybody does. There we are, we're getting our dates broken up now, stopping them glued together. Right, now I want to add the butter. My mother used to substitute the butter for cream. You use about 4 times the amount of cream as you do butter. But I don't really see the point. We have wonderful butter in France, so I think butter's fine. It's actually quite a quick recipe to make. The worst part is sorting out your ingredients, but you can sit down in front of the television and weigh them out. Now, this, oh yes, my egg. This is one of our first eggs from our own chickens. This is from my Basque chickens, and you can see how high it sits and how proud it is. They're beautiful eggs that we've started getting, and I want to do a video on just those and show you, because I've got blue eggs and they are really very pretty. But I can do that, but I can't do that right now. So that will be my next video. How about that? Now I'm just going to mix my egg up a little bit. And I've got a quarter of a large orange juiced. And I got the juice of 1 lemon. Now, the thing about this is that I used an eating apple. Had I used a cooking tart apple, as you often do in England, then what I would need to have done differently is reduce my lemon juice to half a lemon juice, because I didn't want it to be quite so acidic. But I've used an eating apple, a very large eating apple, and I have therefore quite happy to use the entire lemon. Now, if you have a dry mixture because you didn't use cream, you now add a little bit of milk, but I'm mixing it very well first to make certain that it's, and you can see it's going to be very light, very fruity, zesty, a very, very nice pudding. And it's not going to be dark, is it? No. Even Paul is not looking quite so miserable about it now. I think Paul's had rather a lot of Christmas puddings in your life that you didn't enjoy. Is that right? Yes. Well, You'll enjoy this one, I promise. So I'm just going to get a little bit of milk to make it wetter. Okay, so you can see it's quite a dry mixture. I've got my bottle of milk. Paul went and got it for me. This is just to make it moist. And while I'm doing this, a word about bowls. I have these. These are not the shape you use in England. They're more sort of that sort of shape, but it doesn't matter. All across the planet, people own glass or pottery bowls. They use them all the time for all sorts of things. This is a standard French version, but there'll be a different shape in America and again in Germany. But I'm sure everybody owns something like this, that sort of size, where you should get this sort of mixture into two of that type. Yes, I could get one that's absolutely perfect, but that won't help you if you don't happen to have access. You should be able to find something in your cupboard at this moment in time that you can use. Okay? Now it's going slightly sticky. Can you see it's gone slightly sticky? That's what you're looking for. Probably even a little bit more sticky. The idea is that the liquid goes into the dried fruit and makes it bulk up and more juicy. And you've got quite a lot of dried fruit there. So that's why you're looking for something a little bit wet. There. I haven't made one of these for a few years. So it's quite nice sometimes to do something that goes right back to my youth. There you are. You can see I've got a sort of sticky mixture now. The original recipe made 6. We don't need 6. But I'm now going to put this in. My dad used to tie these off. I should get Paul to tie them off. Traditionally, they were covered with greaseproof paper and a tea towel that would be folded and then string. Then it goes across and then it forms a handle. Paul's never done one, so I shall help him do it, and then we shall show you the finished end product. I shall be using some paper followed by some tin foil because I find that works very well. Then I can put a cloth over it if you want me to make it look all sort of snazzy. We don't want the water getting in, but we don't want the puddings to dry out. There. That's all there is to them. I think that makes it look quite nice. It's a very rich thing, Christmas pudding. You don't have very much. So one of these I think will easily do 4 people. And we're going out to a friend's house over Christmas, and we shall take this for the dessert. There you are. Right, we'll wrap them up and we'll show people how that goes, okay? Now we use the tin foil. That's right. Well, that one goes over like that. Now you put more string round it, and it has to be done in a very clever way that allows the string to go underneath here, and then you form a handle afterwards.
Okay.
But you have to tie it off first. This protects the whole thing. And before they had tin foil, that's exactly what they used. Really tight, because this is your protection layer. He used to take this over the top and tie it through there somehow. It says you put your finger in to lift it up when it's in the hot water, because you don't let it sit and cool down in the hot water.
Okay.
Originally, this would have not been a cloth, it would have been a folded up tea towel. And your layer, you probably used 2 layers of paper on the inside, and you hoped for best. You'd have one going up and one going over, but I find that this works better because the paper these days is more fragile, believe it or not. Now this one is the same. We're aiming to put this over the top. That's it. That's very good. So just to recap, I've put paper, greaseproof paper, a little disc of that to keep the surface as dry as possible. Then on top of that, I put a layer of the tin foil or aluminium foil, and Paul put a layer of string and tied that off, cut that. Then the paper is very vulnerable. This tin foil can easily be pierced. So we need to protect that. And that's what this is for. Okay? You can just fold up a tea towel and use that. But what he's done, he's pulled it through, tied it as tight as possible, and then he's made a little handle. Paul doesn't trust his little handle, but I've seen them all my life, these little handles being used, not just for Christmas puddings, but all steamed puddings. And this little handle gets it in and out of the boiling water. The reason is that you don't, if you cook your pudding for a long time, you might not be able to do a certain number of hours together. And if you have to do it in stages, you lift it out, you put it on something like this, and you leave it. You don't let it cool in lukewarm water. Then when it goes back, you've got boiling water again, and you pop it back into boiling water. Okay? It's very simple, really. It's just we're not used to it. They did this. It's a way of making a sort of cake, I suppose, before they all had ovens. Now we just put them in the oven. We can even do puddings in the microwave. But before, this is all they had. You don't want this going on the bottom of your pan. If it sits on the bottom of the saucepan, because it's glass, it won't do very well. So you put something on the bottom, and you can stand it on a folded up towel or something like that, just to make a gap between the metal and the bottom of the glass. If you've got one of those little shallow steamers, you can sit it on one of those. And then you've got to find a saucepan. Ideally, it sits in the saucepan and you put the lid on it. And that's it. You just boil it away. And when it's done, you take it out and you serve it. Great. But as I'm making these for an event, I'm not going to be filling their house with steam. So I'm making them in advance and then spending half an hour filling their house with steam. But it's a way to get round the problem. Okay? Simple? Right, we'll show you when they're in the water, and then you'll get the idea. Oh, and you fill it up, because once they're in the water, you won't be able to see. You fill it up to about here, where the mix just stops, really. If you filled it right up to the top, you can take it up to about here, but you don't want to take it so it submerges or the bubbles go over the top. That's what you don't want to do. All right? Right. So what I've got here is a double layer, because in France they make them in so you can use them easier. But this is a very thick one, so it's ideal. So I'm going to use that, and this comes up to about here. So in fact we want the water to about here, but then there'll be displacement as well, so I would take it down to about there. And let's just try it, shall we, and see what we got. I think you'll find this will fit. If I push it to the side a little bit, you can see, I'll do it. I'm going to put a little tiny bit more in. That's ample. Now I'm going to put the flame on the back, push the saucepan over there, rearrange this in the middle. Oh, that's not the right lid, this one is. There you are. Refill the kettle and get the next one working. Okay, this is the second one, and again that will fit in and the lid will cover it, and it's about to there, so if I put it about there it'll be fine. Let's put some hot water in here. That's plenty. Can you see? That's plenty. Don't know if you can just see that. If I rock it, you might be able to see it. Okay, that's plenty. And then I put it over here. We put the light on, and that will cook on there. This one I believe is doing nicely. Can you see? Hardly any bubbles. I don't know if you can see through all the steam if I blow. You've got little tiny bubbles, and the lid makes the steam go back round. Otherwise you're permanently boiling off your water and having to redo it. So this one will come up to the boil, and then we turn it right down. And from the moment it boils, that's when you do your timing. It's very simple. And don't forget, these were made in busy Victorian households with a lot going on. So they're very tolerant for things going a bit wrong. It's not like a modern souffle. So that's fine. Oh, just to remind you, because I have already said, they're in there for 4 hours. Then we take them out. We put them on a wooden board and we let them cool. Then I store them in the fridge until we're ready to use them or take them as a gift. And at that point, we leave them out. We put them into another saucepan of boiling water and put them back into boiling water and give them half an hour. Then they're ready to go on the table. And if the table isn't ready for them, it's not the end of the world. They can sit there for an hour, even another hour and a half. The problem is, if you keep cooking them, they do go dark and they lose that light look. They become more like traditional puddings. So there you go. Happy Christmas. Well, these have been producing a very nice aroma, filling the whole house. Now I'm going to just lift it out. This is an exciting moment. And we're going to cut the string. Take the paper off, cut the string. And here it is. There is your pudding. And that is not a very dark pudding. Now I'm going to use something to help loosen it. And this is one of those special plates. There you are. Right. Now the secret to getting your alcohol to actually flame is to heat your alcohol. Once you've heated it, it's got to get very hot, this. That's it, it's getting nice and hot now. Right.
Oh. A few kilo, right? Some like to see what's going on, but all I've got is the flame.
No one knows how to get that to flame. It's really easy when you know to cheat. So you get your timing right, you get your thing up high, your alcohol's really ready to go, you tell everyone to turn the lights out, you set it alight, then you take it in. And everyone thinks you're so clever. Okay?